All right, everyone, ready to dive in. Today we're tackling something that probably has a lot of you nodding along, especially the guys out there.
I'm all ears.
We're talking men's health and aging, and specifically this supplement, Provacyl, that's making some pretty bold claims about turning back the clock.
Yeah, it's definitely caught my eye, too. A lot of buzz around it.
Exactly. So we're going to break it all down, separate hype from helpful. You know the drill.
Love it. Let's do it.
Now, the source material we got from TopNaturalHealt.com. They use this term andropause. Even call it male menopause, but I have a feeling it's not that simple, right?
You're right on the money. While they both involve hormones changing as we age, the comparison kind of stops there.
How so?
Menopause, for women, it's like a light switch. Hormones pretty much stop. Andropause in men, it's more like a slow fade. Levels of testosterone, DHEA, they start dipping, often in a guy's 30s, and just gradually decline over time.
So less of a sudden drop, more like coasting downhill.
Exactly. And because it's so gradual, guys might not even realize it's happening at first.
Makes sense. Out of sight, out of mind, as they say.
Right. But even though it's subtle, it can still have a real impact on your day-to-day life. Think low energy, losing muscle mass, even that spare tire that seems to pop up out of nowhere.
Ah, so that explains why the source material is all about Provacyl, helping with stuff like low libido and fatigue, things guys might just think are part of getting older, not necessarily a hormone thing.
Exactly. It's incredibly common. Men might start to notice, hey, I'm not bouncing back from workouts like I used to, or, man, I just feel kind of foggy. But because those changes are gradual, they may not put two and two together.
And that's where something like Provacyl swoops in with its long list of benefits, and suddenly it sounds pretty tempting. And I gotta say, looking at this source material, they're not shying away from big promises. Increased libido, more energy, even stuff about reversing aging. Pretty powerful stuff.
Definitely attention-grabbing, especially for guys already feeling those hormonal shifts we talked about. The idea of a natural way to fight back, who wouldn't be into that? But like with anything that promises the moon, we gotta dig a little deeper, see what the science actually says.
And that's what we're here for.
Good.
No stone unturned.
You got it.
So to get us started, let's talk ingredients. Luckily, this source material actually does a decent job of listing them out. L-arginine, murepoix, even GABA. Some ring a bell, some not so much.
Yeah, it's an interesting mix for sure, and each one supposedly comes with its own set of benefits.
Which is the perfect transition. Because in the next part of our deep dive, we're going to find out if these ingredients actually live up to all the hype. Stick with us, folks, because it gets really interesting from here. All right, so we've got our shopping cart full of Provacyl ingredients, but hold your horses before you hit that buy now button. We got to see what we're working with here. Let's start with one I've actually seen around the gym, L-arginine.
Okay, yeah.
Provacyl claims it can unleash your inner beast by boosting HGH, human growth hormone. Now, I'm no scientist, but are we saying popping a pill is going to turn me into, like, the Hulk?
Well, not exactly. It's not quite that simple. While L-arginine is involved in HGH production, it's not like a direct one-to-one thing.
Okay, so what's the deal? Does the research actually back up Provacyl's claims here?
There have been some studies, yeah. One that comes to mind was in the Journal of Endocrinology back in 2021. They found L-arginine, when taken in the right doses and the right forms, can cause a temporary bump in HGH levels.
Interesting. So it does something.
It can, but the results are all over the place, and the dosage they used in those studies way higher than what you'd find in your average Provacyl serving.
Gotcha. So dosage is key here. What about those claims of increased energy, fat loss, all that good stuff? Is that connected to the HGH bump?
We got to be careful about jumping to conclusions. While HGH does play a role in energy and muscle growth, it's not the whole story.
Right. There's always more to it.
Exactly. Other hormones, your diet, how much you're exercising, sleep, it all matters.
So no magic bullet then?
Not quite. Taking L-arginine might help, especially as part of a healthy lifestyle, but it's not going to single-handedly turn back the clock.
Fair enough. All right, let's move on to one that have me a little stumped, murepoix.
Oh, yeah.
Provacyl is really pushing its libido-boosting effects. They even call it the spark for your love life. A little on the nose there, if you ask me. So what's the deal? Is there any actual science behind that?
It's a fascinating one, murepoix. Been used in traditional medicine for ages, especially in South America.
Really?
Yeah, as a remedy for, well, low libido, erectile dysfunction, that sort of thing. But when it comes to hard scientific evidence, it gets a little fuzzy.
So centuries of anecdotal evidence, but what about actual clinical trials? The gold standard?
There have been a handful of small studies suggesting it might have some benefits, but we're talking small groups of people, short time frames, often no control group to compare to.
Not ideal.
Not really. There was one published in, I think it was Human Psychopharmacology back in 2000, showed some promise, but only 26 participants, and it only lasted 2 weeks.
Interesting, but not exactly convincing.
Right. The research on Europluma is definitely interesting, don't get me wrong. It deserves more study, for sure. But we're a long way from saying for sure what it can do based on what we have now.
And figuring out the right dosage with this one seems like a shot in the dark too, huh?
Pretty much. The research is so limited, it's tough to even say what an optimal dose would be.
Okay, so while Provacyl might hike up Mirapuama, sounds like the jury is still out on that one. See, this is why I love these deep dives. We get to really dig in, see what the science actually says, not just what the marketing folks want us to believe.
Couldn't agree more. It's all about empowering yourself with information.
Exactly. Now let's shift gears to an ingredient that might sound a little more familiar, especially when we're talking about the brain. GABA, gamma-aminobutyric acid.
Okay.
Now, isn't GABA usually associated with like relaxation, sleep? I feel like I've seen it in everything from those fancy teas to sleep supplements. So what's it doing in a supplement that's supposed to be boosting, men's health?
Great question. And it just goes to show how interconnected everything in our bodies really is.
For sure.
Provacyl claims GABA can amplify the effects of the other ingredients. So they're suggesting it somehow optimizes how your body produces hormones.
Interesting. So is GABA like a secret hormone booster?
Not exactly. GABA is actually a neurotransmitter. It's a chemical messenger that works in the brain.
Okay.
And its main job is to inhibit or reduce the activity of neurons. Think of it like the brakes for your nervous system.
Interesting. Slowing things down, calming the system.
Exactly. And there's been some early research looking at a possible link between GABA and HGH release, but it's not a direct connection.
Indirect how?
Well, some researchers think that by helping you relax, reducing stress, which we know can mess with your hormones, GABA might indirectly help your body produce HGH more efficiently.
So it's not boosting HGH directly, but maybe creating a better environment for your body to make its own.
Exactly. It's all about the bigger picture. How these ingredients might work together to have a bigger impact than any one of them alone.
Synergistic, they call it.
Exactly. But again, we need more research to know for sure.
Seems like a recurring theme here, doesn't it?
Uh-huh.
There might be some cool connections, some promising early research, but no miracle cures here.
You got it.
Taking ingredient X doesn't automatically equal outcome Y. It's just not that simple.
Nope. Our bodies are complicated. Can't view these ingredients in a vacuum.
Well said. Now, I know we're just scratching the surface here, still got a lot more to unpack with Provacyl, but let's take a step back for a second. Think about what this all means for the folks listening. What are the key takeaways here? All right, so we've gone through the science behind some of the key ingredients in Provacyl, but I'm sure some of you are thinking, okay, but what does this all mean for me?
Right.
Like, if I'm dealing with some of these getting older symptoms, is Provacyl the answer?
Okay.
Should I be adding this to my shopping cart?
That's the million-dollar question. And unfortunately, there's no easy answer, no one-size-fits-all. It's really important to remember this deep dive. It's for information only. We're not doctors, so this isn't medical advice.
Exactly. We're all about giving you the knowledge, but you got to talk to your own healthcare provider before starting any new supplements, especially if you've got other health stuff going on or you're already taking medications.
Absolutely. And everyone's different. What works for one person might not do a thing for another.
Right, right. Everyone's got their own thing going on.
Exactly. Your genetics, your lifestyle, even how stressed you are, it can all affect how your body responds to these ingredients.
No guarantees then, even if the science seems solid.
Unfortunately not. And supplements, they're not a quick fix. They shouldn't be a replacement for a healthy lifestyle, diet, exercise, all that good stuff.
Makes sense. Now, one thing that's been on my mind is how much Provacyl seems to focus on HGH. Boosting it seems to be their main thing. But you mentioned earlier that other hormones change as we age too. What's the deal with those?
Yeah, HGH definitely gets a lot of attention, but it's not the only hormone going through a transformation as we get older.
Right, like, was it DHEA? We touched on that earlier.
Exactly. DHEA, often called the master hormone, because it's actually a precursor to other hormones like testosterone and estrogen.
Right. It's all coming back to me now. So when DHEA levels start to drop, what happens?
Well, think of DHEA like the conductor of an orchestra. It plays a role in so many different bodily functions.
Wow. Okay, so it's kind of a big deal.
It is. So as it declines with age, we might see a domino effect. Energy levels plummet, moods change, even impacts on brain function, bone health.
Whoa. So it's not just about, like, building muscle or boosting your libido.
Nope, DHEA's got its hands in a lot of cookie jars.
Fascinating. And Provacyl doesn't really address DHEA directly, does it?
Not specifically, but it does highlight how important it is to look at men's health holistically as we age. It's not just about fixing one hormone, it's about understanding how it all works together.
This has been seriously eye-opening. It's like we've peeled back the layers, not just on Provacyl, but on men's health in general.
I agree, knowledge is power, right? It helps us make smarter choices about our health and well-being.
Couldn't agree more. A huge thank you to our expert for joining us today, sharing all that incredible knowledge with us. And to our listeners, remember, this is just the beginning. If you're thinking about trying Provacyl, or any other supplement for that matter, do your homework, talk to your doctor, and never stop asking questions. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep.